Awesome. That's recording. Let me get this last other guy going over here. All right. All right, Mike, can you guys all hear me on that one? Okay, good deal. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for coming back. Welcome back to day 3. I'm so excited to have you guys here. I know we have gone through quite a bit of information and quite a bit of uncomfortable information, right? Where we've had to kind of sit in our thoughts and sit with what we believe about ourselves to be true and sit with the questioning of what we thought was the right way to go through life and how we handle things, and understanding that it just is a little bit different than what we thought it could be and should be, right? So I'm going to sit here and get this presentation up and get where you guys can see my screen here. So give me just 1 second to do that. While I'm doing that, I want you guys to put into the chat, both chats, what your biggest identifying saboteur was from yesterday that you realized is impacting your ability to show up the way that you want to in the world around you. And let me know how that impacted you yesterday. What was the biggest saboteur that you realized was part of the impact to you and part of the thing that is keeping you from showing up as good as you possibly can? Avoidance, yeah, for sure. Yeah, Mike, your guy said the victim and the hypervigilant. Yeah. And it's interesting that we see all of those. And I'm going to go through these for just a second and review this here. Give me just a second to do that and share. And then go back here and move this bad guy. All right. Can everybody see that piece of it? Awesome. Okay. So yesterday we kind of talked through that just a little bit, in the sense where we went through who the main saboteurs are in our business and what we're looking for. And it is time to retrain our brain again. And this is sounding like a broken record, right? When I say it's time to go to work, it's time to retrain your brain. Because when we do that, it is telling our subconscious that we're doing the work, right? So we talked yesterday about the positive intelligence piece, and we talked about what it is that we are looking for when we are looking for those saboteurs and looking for, do we have high positive intelligence or do we have the low positive intelligence? And what does that look like? And how are we making that work? And how are we showing up in our best possible way so that we can be mindful of who those guys are and look out for them? And we talked about the powerful and the primal state, right? And we talked about how much time we spend thinking about the overwhelm and the stress and the anxiety and the various ways in which our mind plays tricks on us and makes us think differently about what we want to believe or how we want to show up in the world, right? And then we talked about, do we live in the powerful state where we feel the joy and the compassion and the confidence, and we're celebrating the life that we're building because we are showing up in our most authentic way and for ourselves, right? And then we went through who these saboteurs are, and most of them are all these different accomplices that we're going to just highlight quickly from yesterday to remind ourselves. But the biggest one is the judge. It's the way we see ourselves. It's the way we see other people through a lens of judgment. And we talked about all these saboteurs: the avoider, the controller, the hyperachiever, the hyper rational. We talked about the victim. We talked about the stickler. We talked about the hyper vigilant, right? Excuse me. We talked about the pleaser, and we talked about those of us who are restless and how the world that we see is skewed through the lens of each of those things. And then we talked about how those thoughts that come into our mind, whether it's the 30,000 a day thoughts or whether it's the 50,000 a day thoughts, all of those thoughts coming through our mind constantly. And we're looking through those and trying to figure out what the best way is to navigate through everything. But we're doing it through the lens of those saboteurs. And then before we know it, we've got these emotions that we have attached to these thoughts through the subconscious filters we didn't even pay attention to the fact that we had, right? And so then those emotions, because we're so emotional about something, we are knee jerk reacting and making choices and actions without all of the information. We're making choices and actions based off what we believe to be true, based off the saboteur that is guiding us and leading us. And it's all being done subconsciously, and we're lacking the control of our lives. And so before we know it, we get into this mindset of life just is what it is. This is just as good as it gets. Oh, well, right? And I talked to you guys a little bit about this on Monday about my life and my struggle, and realizing that regardless of what my circumstance was, as I had told you before, I may not have been responsible for who hurt me, but I was responsible and accountable to heal me. And that lesson has taken me in multiple different ways throughout the course of my career, throughout the course of being a parent, throughout the course of being a wife, of understanding that I have a knee-jerk reaction to a lot of things that don't align with who I truly am. And I have had to reset and reset and reset so many times because I am trying to see the world around me. And what I'm not doing is I'm not stopping long enough to be present in the situation and take full account of all of the players in the situation. And I am reacting because I'm just trying to get something off my plate. A kid comes and asks you what you need, you're halfway paying attention, you answer them and you keep going about your business. A spouse asks you something and you're not fully present, or they say something to you that has nothing to do with what you're thinking about. But because of what you're thinking about and the negative connotation you have about the other topic, it impacts how you respond to your spouse. This is so crucial that you guys get this into your minds and into your hearts, and that you are truly paying attention to this, because regardless of whatever you are trying to accomplish, remember yesterday, I asked you guys, what are you trying to accomplish? What is the thing you need an answer for, right? And the block, or the thing that's keeping you from being able to find that or accomplish that, is this process of identifying who the saboteurs are in our mind and allowing what we're going to talk about today, these sage powers, to come in and rescue the day and help us show up for ourselves. Because when we're consciously showing up for ourselves, it's great. We're the best humans on the planet, right? We want to love everyone. We want to be giving to everyone. We're coming from a place of abundance and authenticity and all of the other things, that you, adjectives that you would use to describe yourself, or that others would describe you, when you are operating at your highest sense of self, right? But when you are not fully present mentally and intellectually, and you are just going on autopilot, again, how many of you drive someplace, drive from work home, or drive to the grocery store and back, and you don't even remember the turns you took because your brain was so much elsewhere, right? Until we get a hold of and identify these saboteurs and take back control of them, which we have the power to do, it doesn't matter what your business is. It doesn't matter what your strategy is. It doesn't matter who your spouse is. It doesn't matter what your income statement looks like. It doesn't matter what your bank account looks like. You are never going to be fully you until you understand what is going on subconsciously in your mind as well, right? You have to understand this. You have to be able to understand this and be able to reconcile with that. It's here's something I hear and I'm reacting to it. We are training our brain this week. I hear something and I am taking a pause, and I am filtering this through the proper channels I need to in a healthy way, so that I can respond, not react. And it is the simplest lesson to be learned, but it is one that we as humans make so complex. And the hardest thing to do is to simplify things that are really quite complex. And this is a very simple strategy that we can all use. The strategy is our brain. The strategy is our mind. The strategy is our thoughts. The strategy is noticing what we are noticing and paying attention to, and making sure that we are responding in a way that moves the needle forward, either in our business or in our relationships or in our lives or in our communities, but it moves the needle forward into the human being you want to become. Because we will always be becoming until the air is gone out of our lungs. We are always becoming. We are hopefully always learning. We are hopefully always getting better because we're learning. And I will tell you guys, the knowledge is not where the power comes from. It is the applied knowledge where power comes from. Knowledge can be power, sure, but I beg to differ. It is applied knowledge. And it wasn't until I applied the knowledge that I knew my entire life, that I had been told my entire life by a loving family who told me I could be anything I wanted to be, that I was good enough, that I was smart enough, that I could accomplish anything. It wasn't until I decided to believe it and then to act on it in a way that proved true by my actions what I believed in my heart to be true. Is this making sense? Is registering? All right. Yeah, Sharon, pause, filter, respond. That's exactly it. You said it better than I did, my friend. So here's what I want you guys to really understand. If I can get this little mouse moving here. There we go. I have a very special guest today, and her name is Monique Smith. And Monique, let me know if you can hear me okay. So Monique, and I'm going to bring you, I don't know how I even do this, Monique. We're going to see if I can do this for, let me see if I get to do this for her. Does that make her come on bigger? I'm not sure. I want you guys to be able to see her. So hold on. I'm not sure how I do that. Again, I'm not tech savvy. If any of my other folks know how to do this, that's totally fine. But Monique, I want you to come on, and I want to just first tell everybody how I met Monique. So I met Monique in another function that I serve in as a representative in my community in a government capacity. And Sharon came on, Monique came on, and Monique, I'm going to have you unmute yourself here, my dear. And she came in to our city council chambers and she presented about herself and her business. And let me tell you guys, it was one of the most impactful and incredible presentations that I had ever heard in my life. And so, Monique, give me just a second and let me get your presentation here. And guys, she came on here, and again, it was not an easy thing that she was doing, but my goodness, she sat there and she just basically told us all what for in a matter of minutes. And I was like, I need to be her friend, first of all. And second of all, I need her to come and speak in my community because it is powerful. So hang on to your hats. And Monique, I just want to say welcome so much to being here. But I also want to make sure everybody gets the impact that I had. So I want you to tell everybody exactly how you introduced yourself to all of us. So welcome, Monique.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. What an introduction. Thank you. And I'm just going to get to it. As you stated, my inmate number is Y13779. In 1999, I was arrested for domestic violence. I was in a very abusive relationship. Long story short, I ended up going to jail, and that was the beginning of my criminal history, we will say. I am a returning citizen, and I don't know how much time I have, but I'm going to make it short and sweet.
You go for it.
From the time I was, okay. From the time I was 19 until the time I was about, we'll say 28, I was in and out of incarceration. I lost custody of my children. Life was just life. It wasn't until I got pregnant with my last son, who's now 16, that I made a conscious decision that I wanted and needed to change my mindset. So I looked happy with the woman that I saw, and I was not. So I needed to change my mindset in order to change my life. How did I do that? I started going to therapy. I changed the circle that I hang with, because I'm a firm believer that the top 5 people that you associate yourself with on a daily basis is a reflection of who you are. So I no longer associated myself with those who didn't have a purpose in their life. And then I changed my circle and began to hang with what we call the millionaire mindset. From this presentation, I am currently a business owner. It's called Flourish Hair Care. Someone saw something in me that I did not see in myself, because I had no desire to be a cosmetologist, a business owner, anything of that aspect. I actually went to school for special education to be a teacher, but God had a different plan for me, and I am grateful for it. So in 2014 was the birth of me being a beauty professional. My salon was initially Beauty Braids and Beyond, but after losing my hair from chemo in 2019, I started my own hair care line, which is called Flourish. And then my business became Flourish Hair Care. I created a hair growth oil myself in my kitchen that helps promote growth. It's a DHT inhibitor. So if you're experiencing hair loss, it helps maintain your hair and helps it grow. These are some of the services that I offer. I cater to all textures and hair types. My main goal is to help you grow your hair. As you can see, well, it's kind of pinned up now, but my hair has grown back from the chemo, and I am in full remission for cancer. And we'll go to the next slide. What I do, so I have a nonprofit that's called Pamper Me Pretty, where I use my life as curriculum, and you'll see in some of the photos. So I also volunteer at Fort Myers Middle Academy with my program. I do work in LaBelle, and then I have my own platform where I do it within my church with the Pamper Me Pretty. I've been on the news featured several times as a healthy hair care expert. I'm very big on making a difference in my community, because I understand the importance of maintaining your self-esteem, because in my early years, I did not love the person that I saw in the mirror. And because of the low self-esteem, I made poor decisions. So I'm an advocate for loving you, because when you love you, you make better choices, better decisions, and you overall make a difference in your life as well as the lives of others. This is my staff. This is my lovely group of ladies right here in the bottom right corner. I also do some of our local business owners. That is Yandy from Love and Hip Hop that I've met. And then the video that is still rotating, I have something called Pearls, Cocktails, and Conversation, where we take hot topics and we bring it into the salon, and we just get a better understanding of what each other's mindset is. And it's more of an iron sharpens iron. Mm-hmm. We do talk hair. We do have cocktails, and we have a lot of conversation.
I think this is so incredible, Monique. And I want people to really understand back to the moment of decision.
Thank you.
The moment where you changed what you believed about yourself to be true. Talk a little bit about where you said, I didn't like what was in the mirror. Somebody believed in me, something I didn't see in myself. We relate in that regard. Talk a little bit about that moment of just decision where you just cut bait and you're like, no more, I am moving forward. And how that we see how it's transformed you, but in that decision-making process, in that assessment, what all was happening in your mind and how were you able to change your mindset?
I actually remember the exact date and the exact moment when it happened. I was in a very toxic, emotionally and physically abusive relationship. This person I considered to be the love of my life. I waited years to get in a relationship with him, and it didn't work out. And I was just at my wit's end. I was a single mom. And I said, I need to change, not just for me, but for the betterment of my son. So I got in the mirror and I stripped myself physically. I stripped myself mentally. I said that I was going to stay in the mirror all day until I fell in love with what I saw. So every scar, every wound, every bruise, physically, mentally, and emotionally, I evaluated. And I recognized that they were learning experiences for me, that I had to go through this so that it would make me stronger. It took, we'll say, about 5 years to do that process again, to, hey, look, let's evaluate. Let's see where we are. Let's see what steps that we need to change in order to get where I needed to be in a healthy and whole state of mind. It was rough. It's rough to say, hey, I'm the problem. This is why I keep allowing myself to be in these situations that I know the triggers, but I still want to, in my mind, think that I can fix them. And it's absolutely okay to walk away from anything that doesn't serve your purpose. So once I walked away from that, and that's been, we're going on 11 years now since I've been out of that relationship, and life has been good because now I recognize what the triggers are, and not just in the relationship, in life as a whole, what things that could take me back to that mindset of not loving who I saw in the mirror. So when I recognize those triggers, I address it immediately. If I need to, I have what's called a 15-minute powwow. So I set my alarm for 15 minutes and I cry, scream, if I need to write, whatever I need to do to get those emotions out. And once the alarm goes off, I say, hey, we got to go back to the normal, we'll do this, the normal life. And then I just get back to cooking, if that makes sense.
I love this. And there are so many golden nuggets in what you're saying, Monique, because it is not a dismissal of saying life's never going to happen again or problems are never going to come back again. What it is saying is I'm going to take time in a healthy way to account for that, allow myself to process that, cry if I need to. It's my party. I can cry if I want to, have a couple of cocktails if I want to, and go through it. But then it's time to get back to what I have envisioned and set out for myself in the betterment of my life. And one of the things that I love so much that really resonated, in addition to just your story, was what you're doing to pay it forward, which is not always easy for people who have gone through a major life event, because it is so difficult just to get yourself to be okay and get yourself in a place of wholesomeness and health. And a lot of times we say, I don't want to deal with anybody else's stuff. I'm good. I'm just living my life. I don't want to be involved in anybody else's stuff. But you have gone all in to be a part of paying it forward to the next generation. And what made you know you wanted to do that and that you were willing to walk this journey alongside other people?
That is a hilarious question. Don't know what I'm doing. What started the birth of Pamper Me Pretty was, so I am the praise and worship leader, and I'm over the youth. I'm a youth coordinator at my church. We had a bunch of young girls who would come to church unkept. So I created a club, and I set ground rules of how they must come to this club, present themselves. It started in my church, and I had no desire to make it public. I attended, First Lady Nikki had an accountability group, and I attended a group, and I told her that what my dream was as far as sharing my story and helping other young girls. She told me to make a flyer. I made a flyer. I only thought that 10 people were going to sign up. I believe it was like 834 people signed up at that time. And it has just kind of blossomed from there. I go through phases still sometimes where I don't understand why I was given this gift, share my story to help other people. But I'm a firm believer that when we go through situations and we overcome those situations, it's not meant for us to be quiet. You know, people always show the beautiful side, but people need to see that we're normal, that we struggle, we go through things, but let me show you how I overcome those things.
I love that so much. And, you know, if someone is wanting to just kind of talk with you a little bit more, maybe afterwards, and see maybe how they could learn a little bit of some of the things that you do in your 15 minutes or in other ways of where you just mentally kind of went through your journey each day, how can they get in touch with you?
I'm everywhere, but nowhere. It's my number is 90452-4247. And you can text me. You can call me. It's my business number, but you can still shoot me a text message. And we actually have groups where we process those things, and I teach people. Thank you. I teach people how to be effective when it comes to dealing with your emotions, because emotional intelligence is needed. Yep. It's something that we all need to master, you know. And I have this intellect over emotions, and that's how I address life. So if it's something of importance, emotionally, I will address it. If it's not, I'll just kind of brush it to the side and deal with it later. But yeah, I'm so nervous. I'm sorry.
You're doing fabulous, Monique. Oh my goodness, you're doing great. And the last question I have for you, and this is a little obscure of a question, but I want you to think back to that person that didn't like herself in the mirror, the person that thought this is just as good as my life gets, and the person you are now today. What would you say to her if she was still sitting there today, to that person before you changed your life?
What would I say to her?
What would you want her to know? What would you want her to see that you now have seen?
Right now that the valley may seem dark, but if there's a smidget of light, stand still and wait till that light emerges. That anything that we go through is temporary, and I'm a Bible thumping, that the scripture says that the weapons may form, but they won't prosper. Mm-hmm. And that's so I am going to go through something, but I know that it's not permanent and it's not of death. So when I go through things, I know that it's temporary, and I just continue to walk to that light, even when I can't see it, because that's how we live our life is faith. When my eyes can't see, but yet my feet follow. So I just wake up and I literally trust the process, and I carry about my day, knowing that I may go through obstacles, I may experience things, but it's only a temporary setback.
Oh, I love that. That was fabulous. Thank you so much, Monique. I appreciate it. You're welcome to hang on and listen for the rest and the quiet if you want to. And thank all your clients for letting us interrupt your hair day.
Yes, we're going to listen, but I'm going to put it on mute because I'm probably in the doghouse because I got a client that's in between.
We got it. We understand. Thank you so much, Monique. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. So, and here, Monique, I'll help you all. I'll help meet you there. So let's go back to, and I loved this story, and it was so incredibly powerful. And I wanted just to make sure that you guys were all able to hear this, because it's easy for us to be willing to and identify with all the different things that go wrong in somebody's life, right? Oh yeah, I've had that heartache. But then when it goes right, a lot of times we end up coming up with all of these different ideas that make it where it's not good enough for us, or we're not good enough to make this work, or we're not good enough to be able to do what they did, or they have something different in them that I don't have, and that's why they're successful, right? Well, they just had a good life, or they just had XYZ. It is in us to decide the kind of life that we have. And I truly want each and every person on here, and Mike, I say this to your crew all the time, I want you guys to ball out. I want you guys to build and live a life that you love. And it starts being in between your ears. So thank you so much, Monique. That was fabulous. And so today we're going to talk through, and let me give me 1 second here. Let me attach your all's workbook here in the notes for you. 1 second. And we will get that going for you. Let me make sure I can do this. Sorry, guys, I should have done that at the very beginning. Dun, 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 dun. I wish I had hold music for you, but I don't. Ba-ba-da-da. 1 second. Here we go. Day 3 workbook. Here we go. All right. And then let me get this over here. Sorry, crew. 1 second. 1 second. Okay. There we go. Let me go back to sharing the screen here for you all. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the different sage powers that we have that allow us to be able to see, hear, and know what we need in order to be able to make our circumstances change and our circumstances work based off of what we know to be true about ourselves. So before I keep going with all of this, I just want to make sure that everybody is able to see me. And can you see the screen? Can you guys see me in the presentation? Is everybody good with that? Okay. Let me. Now do you see me? Okay, part 1, please hold. And then let's go here, 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 here. Now do you guys see this? See it? Woohoo! All right. I told you guys Monday I'm not tech savvy, but we will make it work. Okay. So we're going to go through these 5 sage powers. And in your workbook, you're going to see this. And there's notes for you to take for each different piece of this. But the 5 sage powers that we have give us, as Sharon mentioned, you know, you're going to hear something, you're going to stop, you're going to respond, you're going to filter it, you're going to respond. This is how we're going to filter the information. This is how we're going to filter the information, is through this component, is through these different stages. So we talked yesterday about the saboteurs and the various sage powers that there are, the empathizer and the explorer and the innovator and the navigator and the activator. And this is rooted in the science, guys. The 10 saboteurs, it's coming from your brainstem. It's coming from the limbic system. It's coming from parts of the left brain. It's coming from your experiences that you've had your entire life. And these sage powers are coming from a different place that you're not familiar with. It's coming from the middle prefrontal cortex, from your empathy circuitry, and from parts of your right brain. Okay. And we're going to go through each of these little guys and walk through them step by step so you have all the information you need. So the first one is your power to empathize. Your power to empathize. And basically, this is your ability, as we all know, hopefully on this call, there is a difference between empathy and there is a difference between compassion. Your compassion is, you might have compassion for someone's circumstance and you want to help ease their suffering. The empathy is, I'm going to come alongside you and I'm going to feel this with you. Okay. And the empathy is needed when we fall short of our own expectations, when others fall short of our expectation. And this is when you're going to know the saboteur, the judge, the main head honcho of all your saboteurs. He is in full force. He is judging everything. See, they'll never measure up. You'll never measure up. See, what everybody said about you is true. See, this is why we don't do this. This is why we don't do. That judge is in hyper overdrive with all of this stuff. Okay. And so what gets in the way? What gets in the way is the judge is telling you, you need to be harder on yourself. You need to work harder. You need to do more. You need to be more. You need to go say more. You should punish your employee instead of empathize, right? And there is a power game that will help you in your mind change this trajectory and be able to initiate empathy when you need it. So in my community, we've had this taught to us a lot this past year. But for those of you who may not be familiar, a great way for you to find empathy is to visualize yourself as a child, is to maybe find a picture of yourself as a child and things that you beat yourself up about. Think about yourself being on a playground as a little kid, little boy, little girl, and you're playing kickball. Boys, guys, you're chasing that cutie little girl who won't talk to you, who thinks you smell, because boys are gross. You know, women, it might be the little girl who was on the swing set all by herself because nobody would play with her. And I want you to imagine as an adult sitting on that bench, watching the kids on the playground, watching yourself as a kid as a playground. And I want you to think about what you would want to say to that little kid. What would you want to say to that little boy? What would you want to say to that little girl to let them know it's going to be okay? That's the visualization that you're going to use when you want to have the power to empathize. And this is the same with an employee, same with a spouse or a partner, a kid, a client. When you all are just butting heads and you can't agree, or you don't think they are hearing you or listening to your words because they can't get past the filters of their own self-saboteurs. What would happen in your situations and your conversations if you would activate the empathy to try to understand where they were coming from first, rather than activating your judge saboteur of needing to be right? That's what we're talking about when we're talking about the empathizer. Okay. The second one is your explorer. Your explorer. So the power to, or the explorer is, it's your curiosity, it's your fascination. It is being like an archaeologist where we're going to go look and see what we can explore. We don't have any expectation. We're just curious. We're just willing to ask questions. We're just willing to see what's out there. That's the explorer. Okay. Think about it this way. This is going to be needed when you need to understand a problem or a situation that is very difficult. And maybe you and the other person are very rooted in the way you see the world. Okay. And I'll give you a great example. So for me, I grew up in a pastor's home, as you guys all know, and my father taught us it is absolutely okay to talk about politics and religion. So deja, touche in this day and age. But we were taught to talk about politics and religion. Here's what we believe. Here's what we stand for. Here's what we stand on. But if you are going to ask someone to have respect for the way you see the world, you better be able to give theirs before you ask for it. In other words, seek first to understand before you ask to be understood. So I took world religions courses in college. I took all of these different things because I wanted to learn about these other religions. Like, why are these guys so invested in what they believe when I so believe what I believe to be true? What I learned was, rather than sitting there talking about you're right or wrong, the discoverer or the explorer was able to come in. It's a great sage superpower. And I love activating the explorer because it lets me connect with people. It collapses the distance between me and people, because tell me more about that. Why is that such an important thing for you? I don't need to tell you my opinion. Me getting you to understand or believe or agree with my opinion doesn't make mine any more or less true for me. But by asking questions and exploring about you, I find a way to connect us, to bring us together. You're talking to your clients and they're like, I don't get it. That is the dumbest thing. This is never going to work. We've tried that. We've never done that. We've always done that. Tell me more about that. Tell me more about that experience. I know where I'm taking you, but I've got to get you to come along with me. And the only way to do that is if we can discover that together. So that's your explorer. And what gets in your way? Your saboteur. It kills your curiosity. The judge is going to look for how we can prove people wrong. If you have a controller, you're going to buck the system because you want that person doing it your way immediately because they're a nuisance. The hypervigilant is only going to pick up on danger and is going to ignore anything contrary to what they believe. So that's your power game. Think of a fascinated anthropologist unattached to an outcome. I'm just exploring to see what's out there. We may find something, we may not. Think about a fisherman. I hope I find something today. I hope I catch something, but I may not. But I'm going to go out there and see what's out there. Okay. Number 3, your innovator. Your innovator is going to, if the explorer discovered what is, let's see what is, the innovator is going to discover what isn't, what hasn't yet been. Okay. What else could make this happen? How else could we solve this problem? And this is going to be needed when the old way no longer works, when everybody's in the box, when everybody's trying to do it the same way they always have, definition of insanity. But what gets in the way is the belief system here and our assumptions. Well, that's a great idea, but we don't have any money for it. That's a fabulous idea, but XYZ. So the power game here is going to be, and this is a great thing to do with your clients or even with yourself, with your team, is to give your brain one task. Here's the problem, and here's the task, and here is the task, to come up with as many solutions as possible, regardless of how it would be executed. What are all the options and ways we can make something happen? And the trick here, guys, is to go as fast as you possibly can. So, for example, you have a, let's talk about Monique's salon. And we're going to say, hey, maybe we should start to have some feel-good spray, Aroma 360 or something in the salon. As soon as people walk in, they can smell something great. Your saboteur is going to be telling you, what's going to be the smell? I don't like that smell. I'm allergic to certain smell, all the rabbit hole of negativity. The innovator is going to say, yes, and yes, I like that idea because it would allow for a beautiful fragrance to come through the salon. And we could also see what are the psychological impacts or calming impacts certain scents have on people when they come into a salon. Doesn't mean you're going to do it, but that's the execution. It is the yes and game. Okay. The next one is the navigator, the power to navigate. This is going to be choosing alternative paths based on a consistent internal compass. And this is why I asked you guys Monday what you want, what matters to you, because your compass are your deeply held values. Your compass is your purpose. Your compass is your why. And when you find yourself floundering in life, or when life's not necessarily working out so great, a lot of times, most times, it's going to be because these saboteurs have taken your eye off the ball. What are the values? What matters to me? What's my meaning? What's my purpose? What's my why? Right? And this is going to be needed when there are multiple options present. There's multiple ways to go. So think about yourself in the fork in the road. And I want you to think about what could get in the way. The judge is going to try and make you feel guilty, telling you you should honor the obligations that your parents put on you, not what matters to you or not what resonates with you, but what people have said are the way that we should navigate through something. The hypervigilant is going to keep you on the path of whatever is least risky. The avoider is going to encourage you to just avoid the path, avoid anything with conflict, all those kinds of things. So your power game is called flash forward. Flash forward is the power game. So I want you to think about being at this fork of the road, and I want you to think about the end of your life. And you're at the fork in the road. Here is these two options, and you're at the end of your life. What will you have wanted yourself now to have done from a decision-making standpoint? What will happen on down the road if I make this decision and go left? What will happen on down the road if I make this decision and go right? Let's navigate through all of that journey. What could that look like? And at the end of my life, I want my legacy to be that I was authentic, that I was real, that I helped the world around me, all the things that are true to me, my values, my purpose, my why. And then I'm going to backtrack that up to the moment of today. And a lot of times that's going to make that decision much more simple for you. May not make it easier for you, but it's going to make it much more simple of a decision for you. And then the last one is the power to activate. The power to activate. And this is what a lot of us just don't ever use from a sage power. It is the power to make a decision. Let's go. Let's go. It's taking the action. It's taking the action and activating what needs to be done. This is going to happen when it is really, really clear of what the choices are and what we should be doing, but we're not doing them. And we just need to make that decision. That's what that's going to be. We just need to be able to take that action, right? Taking that action. And so what gets in the way for this is that procrastination gets in the way. The fear of the outcome gets in the way. In this one, every saboteur shows up as a collected team enemy against you in the activate. Every saboteur shows up, every last one. The judge is going to waste your energy by causing fear, anger, shame while you're making the decision every step of the way. The avoider and the restless is going to have you avoid dealing with the painful situation. Don't make a decision. You don't have to deal with it, right? The controller and the stickler are going to cause limited mindset for you and create a very rigid thought process for you. The innovator has gone out the window. The hyperachiever in you is going to want you to take action focused on achievement oriented only. And it's going to ignore the priorities like your relationships. Again, going back to your values and what matters. The victim in you is going to say, don't do anything because then we can still prove to the world, yes, we are a victim and prove ourselves right. The pleaser is going to have you act only if it is going to serve you from a purpose of gaining the acceptance for which you so long by your peers, by your colleagues, by your clients. And then the hypervigilant is going to waste all kinds of time and energy thinking about all the contingencies. What could go wrong? All the anxiety. And so the power game here is to know your enemy. Remember how we talked about that on Tuesday? Know your enemy. Your enemy is the saboteurs. And what did we just watch with the Olympics? It is to understand your enemy. It is to predict what your enemy is going to do. It is then to prepare for what your enemy might do. So when you're coming up to, let's go, let's make this decision. I know what my saboteurs are going to try to do. And I know they're going to be bringing all of those thoughts into my mind, but I'm going to deflect. I'm going to be the best goalie for my mind and my heart and my soul ever. And I'm going to deflect those negative thoughts, those self-sabotaging thoughts that make me want to attach an emotion to it and get mad and angry or scared and fearful and do nothing. And then my choice, instead of it just being inaction because I'm fearful, no, I have deflected it. I have boxed it out. I have blocked it. This is the action based off what adheres with, aligns with, and goes with who I know that I am, who I know that I am not. And I am the only one living my life, and I will live with the consequences or the blessings or benefits of my decision. Period. And that is very, very difficult for us in a lot of ways at a lot of times because we don't want to let people down. We don't want to have to sit there, especially in business, and sit there and say, oh, I made a mistake that cost me $100,000. Well, let me just tell you, the more times you guys take actions, especially for business owners, the more times you're probably going to see failures. But you're going to fail faster. You're going to fail with more knowledge. You're going to be able to get back up quicker, and you're going to have more resources to now know that's another way not to do it. That's another way not to do it. So now I want you to go to your workbook. And if you haven't been already, And there is a little set page that has a grid, and it's called Belief Exploration. Belief exploration. We sometimes let ourselves down to ensure we don't upset others. Yeah, Julie, we are all guilty of that. We are all guilty of that for sure. And it goes back to, again, and we've all been there, and we all constantly are there of, I don't want to have to deal with what the opinion of others are if they don't see or know all of the things I know that led to my decision. Because we're judging based off what we see in a news feed or a scroll feed on social media, or we're judging based off what we knew about a person 10, 15 years ago. Oh, they're doing that? Well, golly, 20 years ago when I worked with them in corporate America, they couldn't do diddly squat. Now they're trying to run a bit, right? We don't want people looking at us that way. So I want you to think about, we've talked about this a lot this week, and it's led up to this moment where I want you to take some time in the couple minutes we have left. And I want you to, under belief exploration, it says, identify one or more of the self-limiting beliefs that you hold about yourself or your success. And then I want you to reflect. So that's going to be what you're going to put in the self-limiting belief part. Then in the middle where it says reflect and reframe, I want you to think about which sage power could have in that situation helped you. And if you would have let it help you, now go to that self-empowering belief. What could that new result have been? Or what could you now allow yourself to believe about yourself to be true that had you not used a sage power, you'd still be sitting in? And that's a lot to sit in, guys. I know what I'm asking of you. But nothing changes in your life if you're not real with yourself. And this helps you get real with yourself really, really quickly. For me, okay, how much longer do you want to stay a victim? How much longer do you want to believe it's everybody else's fault? How much longer do you want to do this? How much longer do you want to do that? Those were all the self-saboteurs telling me at the end of the day, I wasn't good enough or smart enough to do anything. But when you allow yourself to be accountable and responsible for your life, here's what starts to change, guys. And this is what I want you guys to get so excited about thinking. You start to trust yourself more. You start to believe in yourself more, even if nobody else does. You start trusting your intuition and your gut, and you start being able to lead with more intention in every aspect of your life. And it is a game changer for you and for your life. Because a lot of times we don't make decisions because we don't trust ourselves because of our track record. But the more you start to let yourself take action and make new choices, you start to trust yourself. You start to believe in yourself. And you don't need to listen to what everybody else is trying to tell you to do because they're not living your life. And that is where the magic starts to happen in your life. And tomorrow we're going to be talking about this a little bit more, because when you start to think differently in your mind and train your mind to see the world differently and train your mind to realize I may not be able to have all the choices that I need or access to all of the resources that I need, but there are choices I do have access to. And within the choices I have, I'm going to make the one that serves the purpose according to where I'm trying to go, what I believe in to be true, what I know to be true, not because somebody else told me to, not because it's what a saboteur made me believe, because it's what I am consciously, intentionally choosing to know and believe and act on in my life to be true, so that I can build and live this life that I love. All right, guys, so take a couple more minutes. You've got 5 more minutes to go through this exercise. Thank you so much for being here. Come back tomorrow for day 4. It's going to be awesome. Thank you, guys. Have a great afternoon.